North Dakota State Extension economist Frayne Olson is our marketing analyst this week. On Tuesday, the USDA's Farm Service Agency released its prevented planting acres for the country's crops. That includes more than 3.5 million acres in corn and 1.6 million acres of soybeans. Nebraska's share is comparatively small, about 11,400 acres for corn and just more than 2,600 soybean acres. We talked with Frayne Thursday morning about these updates, as well as this week's new stock market record and the current condition of crops in North Dakota.
Wheat harvest is almost completed now. We're about 90% complete, but those last few acres are going to take a while because we had a very extended planting season. And of course, for spring wheat, the later you plant it, the later you harvest it, unlike winter wheat, which kind of breaks dormancy all at the same time. So we're kind of wrapping up the wheat harvest. Corn and soybean condition, we're obviously maturing very quickly. We have been catching some rain showers recently, which I think will help a little bit with the later corn and soybeans. On the corn side, primarily putting on some additional test weight. On the later soybeans, we might be able to fill out some of those pods. You know, the crop looks okay. It did take some hits. It was under some stress during that hot spell that we had. But essentially, we needed that up here because we've had a very cool summer, which was very good for wheat yields. But it slowed up the maturity on both corn and beans. So we, in many ways, really needed those heat units to be able to make a crop.
Yeah, I think you're in the popular boat there. I'll ask you a two-part question here. What are you seeing or what are you reading about spring wheat condition across the country? And then for wheat harvest in Canada, what do those numbers look like?
Yeah, the reports coming out of the northern plains, out of Minnesota, North Dakota, Montana on the spring wheat is very good. Most farmers that I've talked to have been very pleased, actually surprised at their wheat yields. Again, the cool summer has helped us with that. Quality is very good. The test weights, the falling numbers are very good. Protein tends to be a little bit lower, and of course for spring wheat, our protein content is one of the things that we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace with. So we may have some challenges on the protein premiums and discounts, but in general, the wheat harvest here is and the quality is very good. Very similar story in Canada. I know I reported earlier that we were concerned about, again, the cool summer and the maturity rate of the Canadian crop. There might be some concerns about frost damage. Again, obviously with the hot couple weeks that we had, that pushed the Canadian crop along as well. They're approximately 35 to 40% completed on their spring wheat harvest right now, which is pretty good progress for them. Again, very similar reports. Yields are good. Base quality is good, proteins are a little bit low. Stats Canada or Statistics Canada, which is comparable to our USDA, came out with a report yesterday, and they are looking at very, very good yields and a very good crop. So we're looking at a big production out of that region, basically confirmed in the USDA WASDE report.
And the following question would be, is there enough consumption, is there enough demand to satisfy that wheat that's going to hit the market?
Well, again, earlier we had talked about some of the potential problem spots in the world with production, whether it be the Black Sea or potential problems in Europe and even here in the Northern Plains. But since the last time we talked about that, the weather has really changed, has been very conducive and good for the wheat development and wheat harvest. And so a lot of the concerns we had on the production side have been reduced. It looks like we're going to have plenty of wheat around. Now, the interesting thing is if you look at the world supply-demand condition, the consumption or use is also increasing. And so when you run that all through and look at bottom line, what happens to our ending stocks? Well, world ending stocks are actually going to be down a bit from last year. So there is still interest in world consumption, world use of wheat. We just got to figure out who has it and who needs it.
Earlier this week, the FSA came out with their numbers for prevented planting acres. This might not be as applicable to wheat, but for corn and soybeans, just your overall feeling of what those numbers look like.
Yeah, there was a few of the market analysts and some of the market chatter was a bit surprised at the actual planting certification numbers that came in from FSA for both corn and soybeans. Recognize that information from FSA is used by the World Board, which is the division of USDA that puts the WASDE reports together, supply-demand reports together. And they're going to use that then to update some of the information in the October report. Most analysts expect the planted and harvested acreage for both corn and soybeans to drop a bit in the October report. My view is that that'll have a bigger impact on the soybean or the oilseed complex than it will on corn, just because the oilseed complex is much tighter supply-demand conditions. Corn, we have a little bit of room for adjustment.
Earlier this week, the Fed Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke kind of gave fuel to the stock market when he announced that there wouldn't be a change to his monetary policy, and that's not what people were guessing for. As it relates to ag, how is that important?
Well, it's important because it had a fairly significant influence on the value of the U.S. dollar. And when we look at that as it impacts trade and in particular exports of agricultural commodities, obviously the lower the dollar, the more conducive. So his announcement and then a subsequent drop in the value of the dollar has hopefully short-term will help U.S. exports.
What about if they would decide to change it, Frayne?
Well, moving forward, that's one of the things people have to be very concerned about, because at some point the Federal Reserve is going to change their stance. They're going to start increasing interest rates. That will more than likely increase the value of the U.S. dollar and again make things a bit tougher to sell, U.S. products tougher to sell in the world market. So and that response can come fairly quickly. So farmers need to be concerned, watching that anyway, and we'll have to see what happens.